My name is Julia. I am the Senior Event Designer and Sales Manager at Ryan Designs. We just did a wedding at Castle Hill Inn for the cranes that we're going to be breaking down today. The client and the planner came to Ryan Designs with a very specific vision of coastal, elegant, a little bit southern. They really wanted to incorporate the cranes into their wedding since the bride would now be taking on the crane name. It was really fun to incorporate something a little bit different into this wedding other than the traditional wedding whites and greens and blues. They wanted to be classic and elegant, but then they also wanted to incorporate something a little bit fun over the dance floor that was a little bit more glam. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of elements to this wedding. Truly an experience from start to finish. Specific vision. Originally, we had talked about a lot of whites and blues, some pops of color, but that really deep navy coastal blue is really what we wanted to hone in on, and then have those lighter shades and some lighter spring and pastel colors kind of popped in. The planner really had this vision of having a center focus of the cocktail tent to be really loungy and comfortable with a huge floral statement piece in the center, which was executed flawlessly from the Semia team as always. On the Ryan Design side of things, we started with cocktail hour. It was kind of that blank slate, whites, sailcloth out on the chalet lawn. We brought in our Bowie bars, our classic white statement bars, and the bar backs were that natural wood with the fluted backing. We also elevated the tent with bistro lighting, crystal chandeliers for a little bit of glam. We worked with Semia, who was going to be adding in a ton of large crane statues. We did a variety of different furniture, some love seats, some sofas, a mixture of chairs, some ottomans, coffee tables for guests to come in and mingle and enjoy. So we introduced a few new pieces to our inventory this year, and this wedding actually kicked off a couple of them. So the blue Daphne chairs came from Tav Furniture, and they're really pretty blue linen with a white fringe on the bottom. Another custom build that we added to our inventory this year was the sofa table. So it runs the entire length of a traditional sofa. It's white, it has beautiful trim on the outsides and on the top of it, kind of resembling the Bowie bar. This can be custom colored, but we prefer it to stay white because it really just anchors the space and allows the lounge furniture to take over. This piece was really important because Semia's team needed a stable anchor for their large floral piece that had the two cranes kind of like kissing. It was really beautiful, super heavy, but it was that stunning moment. And that sofa table that rose kind of above the lounge furniture really allowed that to shine through. The inspiration for the marquee going from the cocktail tent to the reception tent was actually pulled from the blue and white striped ottomans. We have the capabilities to work with a company that will custom print any graphic on the fabric. So we picked a Pantone that matched the blue and white stripe ottomans and color matched that for the marquee. So that when the clients walked through the marquee, it was a surrounding of the blue and white stripe, almost the same vibe as the Clarke Cooke House in Newport. They wanted it to be this really fun, beautiful moment heading into the reception tent. We decided to use the French country chandeliers, which really pull in the elegance, paired with all of the blue and white linens and the china and flatware, really created a soft space that really encapsulated what the bride was looking for. And then heading over into the dance floor area, for Castle Hill, we have our traditional chalet doors that we hand custom built to fit in the inlays of the doors when you open those up for the stage. It also has a surround that fits really snugly on the peak stage that comes in. So we're able to custom color the wainscoting in this and also add wallpaper of your choice. So the clients picked up the wallpaper from Spoonflower, and it had the cranes in it. And there was a really deep navy blue color that the planner and the bride picked out that was actually pulled from the crane wallpaper. We tied in the gold sconces, and they had photos of their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents on each side of the doors, not only for a memorabilia moment, but also to involve them into their ceremony. On the other wall, where the clients usually have their cake table or the dessert table, the bride wanted a moment where guests could take photos for Christmas or family portraits or just a nice moment with your loved one. So we added a blue Theodore sofa over there to tie into the navy blue. We put a large crystal orb overhead, and then we did a really dramatic, romantic, swoopy draping behind it that kind of elevated that space and gave a great backdrop to have for their photos. Over the dance floor area, the clients really wanted this full ceiling moment. So we brought in 4 trellises that were all connected together that Semia's team added a ton of florals to, and then we popped in crystal orb chandeliers. Not only were they kind of like tucked into the florals and peeking out a little bit, but the sparkle and the glistening of the light was really magical, especially during the dancing moments. Any wedding, as flawless as it looks, always has a slight problem executing flawlessly. We never tell the clients, as vendors, as professional as we are, but we make sure that we get the job done. So a few small issue pain points for this wedding. The chairs, I had ordered those back in early January, just so I knew I had them in time for the start of the season in April. And somehow they got held up in New Jersey for the last month. And I had been trying to track them down, arguing a little bit with the delivery company to get them here by Friday before the wedding.
They said, oh, they're being delivered this Thursday. That was like 2 weeks ago. I said, great. Then all of a sudden, it was delayed until like 3 p.m. on Thursday. And I said, I don't care what you have to do, but I need these in Rhode Island by tomorrow morning. I also told them that they owed me $3,000 if they did it.
Literally.
And they somehow got it.
Another one of our pain points during the installation process would be the trellis. Now, no trellis structure ever goes up seamlessly. Having 4 trellises built together as one is not very common. We will have them side by side and one long trellis down the center, and those are pretty easy to balance out, but having the 4 trellises in a grid, making sure all of them are level, all of them are straight, nothing is crooked, and also adding the weight of the florals and popping in the crystal chandeliers through them is definitely a struggle during the installation process. I am not the one hanging these. Our lead technicians, and especially Ed, is the one who spearheads this all the time. I'm kind of the eyes on the ground to say, yes, it looks good. No, we need to tilt it a little bit. But he's always a really good sport. From a client's perspective, you would never know because you show up and it's beautiful. Something new and different that we did, we've never actually fully encapsulated a marquee. So going from the cocktail tent to the reception tent was that blue and white striped fabric. We were kind of talking about it internally for a couple of weeks on different ways that we could install this. What we eventually decided on was running the fabric from the ground up to the sides, up to the peak, and then back down. So it looked like one flawless, seamless stripe. It was myself, Katie, and Elena who really spearheaded this marquee, and we made sure every single stripe was perfectly straight, perfectly lined up, and it turned out exactly how we wanted it to. If you just got engaged and you have a specific design vision in mind, click the link in our description or leave a comment, and we would love to work with you.